Housing isn't a primary federal responsibility.
So Trudeau's been saying that this housing issue with all the immigrants and everything that's coming into, all the refugees that he's letting into the country, is nothing to do with him. It's provincial. We have a guy on the radio who's an expert about this. He's going to explain why he thinks that the federal government should actually be paying up for these houses and getting the homeless situation sorted faster than they are doing now. It doesn't seem to be a priority to Trudeau at the moment. The homeless, homing the refugees, and basically anything to do with, people. He doesn't seem to care about people. Let's have a listen, guys.
Well, I think what's important to note is that every level of government has been not doing the things that they have control over that impacts this issue. So I think the important thing to remember that housing is not a market, it is a system in which the government has direct and indirect influences over the behaviors that everyone involved in it plays. And so when the Prime Minister goes and says, oh, well, it's not primarily a federal responsibility, it kind of ignores all the policies that the federal government is responsible for and is contributing to this crisis. So if you look at, for example, decisions around immigration, I do personally support immigration as a national building project. It's good for our demographics, etc. But it has consequences, and you need to have housing for the people who we're going to welcome here, or else we're going to drive down living standards. Same with capacity in our healthcare system and other forms of infrastructure. And the federal government has really not seen its responsibility in coordinating with the provinces to ensure that that capacity is being created. So absolutely a role for the federal government there. They are responsible for financial services regulation. They collect a lot of tax revenue off of building and new construction. There's been a lot of folks pressing for the federal government to relax HST, particularly on purpose-built rentals. And so what we've seen from the federal Liberals time and time again is these paltry drop in the bucket announcements, 200 homes here, 100 homes here, where they're sending the minister. And truthfully, we're in a situation where we need to build 5.3 million new homes over the next 10 years. This is not a serious approach to housing. And so we've seen this cabinet shuffle. We've seen that, the government wanted to pivot on this issue, and then they delivered more of the same nothingness that they've been delivering for years. And, in my opinion, this is an area where, frankly, the federal Liberals could learn from their provincial Conservative counterparts, where, if you're not willing to actually take serious action on it, you should probably not highlight the insufficient actions that you're doing.
Housing isn't a primary federal responsibility. It's not something that we have direct carriage of, but it is something that we can and must help with. That's something we disagreed with our previous Conservative colleagues when Stephen Harper's government, with Pierre Poilievre being a big part of it, pulled themselves entirely out of the housing business for 10 years. And there's a lot of missed opportunities through that. So from the time we got elected in 2015, we were committed to building a national housing strategy, which we announced in 2017, and in continuing to be there to layer in and show up.
It's actually a great point how he says that Trudeau is highlighting the mistakes he's making and the inaction that he's taking on housing. I wonder though, what action needs to be taken, and what is Canada's biggest priority?
The federal government has put up some substantial amount of money, but the problem is this isn't necessarily just a money issue. This is a system not working issue. So I think the federal government needs to step up with funding, particularly around shelters, transitional housing, places for asylum seekers and refugees, because those are decisions that the federal government has made to increase our support for those things. And cities don't have the same capital access the federal government does. So yeah, they need to be there for that. But a big part of this challenge is not tax dollars going towards housing. It's the fact that the system that governs how we build is so messed up, archaic, and slow that it makes the process of building anything at all challenging, expensive, and left to the domains of large builders, consultants, and lawyers that prevents people and regular citizens from being community builders and part of the housing solution. And so until municipalities change that, or the province especially changes that for municipalities, because frankly, I don't see municipalities all coming to the right conclusions at the same time, we're gonna be throwing money at a process that is terrible. So we need to fix the rules that govern how we build. And yes, that is a municipal and provincial issue. But then from a regulatory standpoint, how we govern access to capital, how we provide capital for these other solutions, how we leverage public land for housing solutions. Those are all things that should be in the domain of the federal government. And frankly, it's just an excuse to say that it's not.
Well, there you go. I thought that was a really interesting take on what the federal government should be doing. As recently Trudeau has been on record saying that the federal government shouldn't be doing as much as what they could be doing, and they're not doing, and they're definitely not doing anything. Well, they're not doing enough, that's for sure. They're letting all these refugees in, which, you know, it's going to happen. It's Canada. They let refugees in. That's just the way Canada is. But to ignore it and to build and not build any houses, you know, what's the new housing minister doing? He isn't doing anything. He's just doing the rounds saying how, oh yeah, everything's going to change now that I'm the housing minister. I used to be the immigration minister and now I'm doing this job. But I don't know what I'm doing on either job. So who cares? No one cares. No one cares. No one cares in this government. Poilievre says he's going to build more houses. Let's hope he does it when he gets voted in. Not if, when. Till next time.